The lights of Las Vegas shimmered with unforgiving brightness that spring night, but none of them could extinguish the emptiness in the eyes of 29-year-old Olivia Mitchell. A single mother of twin girls, she sat alone in the golden silence of a dressing room, staring at her reflection and attempting to rehearse a smile. Within minutes, she knew her life would irrevocably change. "You have 15 minutes, Miss Evans," a woman in a sleek black suit informed her with professional detachment, using the false name Olivia had provided. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice barely audible. After losing her mother to illness 2 years ago, Olivia had shouldered the burden of caring for her ailing father, Richard, and her 7-year-old daughters, Emma and Lily. The financial strain had been manageable until 3 months ago, when she discovered her father had been deceived by corrupt investors in a sophisticated scheme. Their family's modest savings, all they had left of her mother's legacy, had vanished overnight. The bankruptcy notice came first, followed by threatening calls from a dangerous debt collector with connections to Nevada's gambling world. The man, known only as the broker, had made it clear. The clock was ticking, and with interest mounting daily, their safety was no longer guaranteed. Her father's health had deteriorated rapidly with the stress, and Olivia had exhausted every legitimate option. Second job, loans, selling possessions. Nothing made a dent in the massive debt engineered by the fraudulent investment scheme. That's when a discreet business card appeared in her mailbox. Exclusive solutions for exclusive problems. The card led her to a shadowy organization operating beneath the dazzling veneer of Las Vegas. They offered her a way out, participation in a secret auction where her companionship would be offered for 2 months to ultra-wealthy men accustomed to purchasing whatever they desired, including broken stories like hers. "Entering the auction is your choice," the elegant woman had explained during their first meeting, "but once you're sold, the contract is binding. 2 months of complete compliance with your buyer's wishes. In return, your debt will be settled in full." Olivia applied another layer of makeup to her face, carefully concealing the dark circles under her eyes. Over the scar from her C-section, she applied a special concealer. The auction packet had been explicit. She would be presented as a mysterious woman with no children and no past. Virgin territory for men who had everything but genuine connection. A knock on the door signaled it was time. She stood up, smoothing the emerald green gown they had selected for her. It hugged her figure perfectly, transforming her from an exhausted single mother into someone unrecognizable, someone valuable enough to command a price that could save her family. The corridor leading to the stage was dimly lit. Through a velvet curtain, she could hear the murmur of deep voices, ice clinking against crystal glasses. She thought of Emma and Lily sleeping at their neighbor's house, blissfully unaware that their mother was about to become merchandise. "Remember," the woman whispered as they reached the curtain, "you are Lot 23. No real names, no personal details, just mystery and allure." Olivia nodded, her throat too tight for words. "And welcome our next offering, gentlemen," announced a smooth voice from the stage. Lot 23, a rare find in today's world. Beauty untouched by cynicism, grace unmarred by experience. 2 months of exclusive companionship with a truly exceptional woman. The curtain parted, and Olivia stepped onto the stage. The spotlight blinded her momentarily, but as her eyes adjusted, she made out the silhouettes of perhaps 20 men seated at individual tables in the darkness. Their faces were obscured, but their wealth was evident in every detail, from the cut of their suits to their studied stillness. "The bidding starts at $100,000, the auctioneer declared. A hand raised immediately. 100,000 from Mr. S. "Do I hear 150? Another hand, then another. As the numbers climbed, Olivia maintained her dignified posture, but inside, she calculated how much was needed to clear her father's debt and secure her daughter's future. By the time the bidding reached 500,000, only 3 men remained in the game. From her peripheral vision, she noticed something different about one of them. Unlike the others who leaned forward with predatory interest, this man remained composed, watchful. He sat in a wheelchair, an unexpected sight in this arena of power. Despite his physical limitation, He radiated authority. Something in his controlled presence suggested not just wealth, but power of a different quality. 700,000, called out one of the remaining bidders. 800, countered another. The man in the wheelchair remained silent, observing the proceedings with inscrutable eyes. 800,000 going once. The auctioneer paused dramatically. Going twice. That's when the man in the wheelchair finally raised his hand. His voice, when it came, carried easily, across the room without being raised. $1 million. A collective intake of breath rippled through the room. The auctioneer's professional composure faltered momentarily. $1 million from Mr. A. Do I hear any further bids? Silence fell. The other men exchanged glances, some calculating, others accepting defeat. Very well. Sold to Mr. A for $1 million. Olivia's heart hammered against her ribs. $1 million, far more than needed to clear the debt and secure her family. But as relief washed over her, another emotion followed. A deep, unsettling fear of the unknown man who had just purchased 2 months of her life. The auctioneer invited her to step down from the stage, where she was met by the woman in the black suit and escorted to a private room. Minutes later, a different assistant entered, a composed man in his 50s with silver-streaked hair. Miss Evans, he greeted her formally. I am William Bennett, personal assistant to Mr. Alexander Reed. He has arranged for your immediate departure. A private jet is waiting. Departure to where? Olivia asked, finding her voice at last. To Manhattan, Miss Evans. Mr. Reed's residence awaits your arrival. Your contract begins now. Olivia thought of the hasty arrangements she'd made. Her father moved to a skilled nursing facility under the pretense of specialized care. Her daughters entrusted to her closest friend with a story about a temporary job opportunity. She had 72 hours before her absence would raise serious questions. I need to make a call before we leave, she said. William's expression remained neutral. I'm afraid that's not possible. The terms of your contract specify no outside contact for the first week. Mr. Reed values discretion above all else. Panic fluttered in her chest. But She caught herself before saying my family. Instead, she said, my affairs aren't in order for such an immediate departure. Everything has been arranged, William replied smoothly. The organization has already transferred the funds to settle your obligations. Your other concerns can be addressed after the initial adjustment period. The finality in his tone made it clear. She was no longer in control of her own life. The contract had begun. As William led her to a waiting limousine, Olivia caught a glimpse of Las Vegas Boulevard through the window. The same glittering strip that had once symbolized possibility now seemed to mock her desperate gamble. Behind that wall of light lay her real life, 2 little girls who needed their mother, a father whose health hung by a thread, and the fragments of a family she was fighting to preserve. The limousine glided through the night toward the private airfield. Olivia steeled herself for what awaited her in New York, for the man who had paid such an extraordinary sum for her company. Alexander Reed. Even his name carried weight and authority. She wondered what had happened to place him in a wheelchair, and what a man who commanded such wealth and power could possibly want from her, beyond the obvious. The sleek private jet stood waiting on the tarmac, its engines already humming with readiness. As she ascended the steps, Olivia realized that Mr. Reed himself was not on board. Instead, William directed her to a luxurious seat and handed her a sealed envelope. Mr. Reed asks that you read this during the flight. It contains information that will prepare you for your arrival. With trembling fingers, Olivia opened the envelope once they were airborne. Inside was a letter written in an elegant, strong hand. Miss Evans, you enter into this arrangement under circumstances I do not yet fully understand, but which I respect as private. Similarly, you know little of me beyond what you observed tonight. This imbalance will be addressed upon your arrival. For now, understand these fundamentals. I value honesty above all else. I despise pretense and emotional manipulation. My expectations of you are straightforward. Genuine company, intelligent conversation, and discretion. The physical aspects of our arrangement will be discussed once mutual comfort is established. You will want for nothing material during your time with me. In return, I ask for authenticity, however uncomfortable that may sometimes be. Until Manhattan. Alexander Reed. Olivia read the letter 3 times, searching for hidden meanings, for threats, for anything that might prepare her for the man she would meet in a few hours. But all she found was directness and an unexpected hint of integrity. As the jet soared through the night sky, carrying her toward a life temporarily not her own, Olivia gazed out the window at the vast darkness. Below, interrupted occasionally by clusters of light, each representing countless lives and stories unfolding in their own complexity. Somewhere back in Nevada, her daughters would be waking soon, asking for their mother. Her father would be receiving treatment, unaware of the sacrifice she had made to secure his care and their future. And a debt collector would be receiving notification that the Mitchell family debt had been paid in full with interest. The price had been her freedom. For 2 months, she would be Lot 23, the possession of Alexander Reed. What remained to be seen was whether at the end of those 2 months she would still recognize the woman who returned to her family, or if this desperate gamble would change her in ways she couldn't yet imagine. The Reed Tower dominated the Manhattan skyline, a gleaming testament to its owner's vision and power. 72 stories of architectural innovation, the building housed Alexander Reed's corporate headquarters, luxury apartments for executives, and at its summit, the penthouse where he had lived in isolation since the accident 3 years ago. Dawn was breaking over the city as Olivia's car pulled into the private underground garage. The flight had been smooth, but sleep had eluded her. Now, exhaustion clouded her thoughts as William escorted her to a private elevator that required both a key card and fingerprint identification. "Mr. Reed occupies the top 3 floors, William explained as the elevator ascended swiftly. "The 68th floor contains guest accommodations, including your suite. The 69th houses the staff quarters and functional spaces. The 70th is Mr. Reed's private residence." Olivia nodded, absorbing the information while trying to calm her racing heart. The elevator doors opened to reveal an elegantly appointed foyer. The decor was modern, but warm, neutral tones accented with subtle touches of blue and gold. "Your accommodations," William said, leading her down a corridor to a mahogany door. He handed her a key card. "Mr. Reed will meet with you at noon. Until then, please rest and make yourself comfortable. Breakfast will be delivered at 10, unless you prefer an earlier time." "10 is fine," Olivia replied, her voice steadier than she felt. Left alone in the suite, Olivia was struck by its understated luxury. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a breathtaking view of Central Park and the city beyond. The bedroom featured a king-sized bed with linens that probably cost more than her monthly rent. The bathroom was a marvel of marble and glass, with a shower and soaking tub that could comfortably fit 3 people. In the walk-in closet, she found a selection of designer clothing in exactly her size, casual wear, formal dresses, sleepwear, even athletic attire. The precision of the preparations was both impressive and unsettling. After a long shower that failed to fully wash away her anxiety, Olivia dressed in a simple cream blouse and tailored navy pants from the provided wardrobe. She spent the hours, until breakfast, restlessly exploring her new gilded cage, wondering about the man who awaited her upstairs. Precisely at 10, a young woman arrived with a breakfast cart. "Good morning, Miss Evans. I'm Sophie, Mr. Reed's household manager," she introduced herself warmly. "I hope you slept well?" "As well as could be expected," Olivia replied cautiously. Sophie's smile was understanding. "The first night is always disorienting. Please enjoy your breakfast. If you need anything before your meeting with Mr. Reed, just use the house phone. Dial 1 for direct assistance." After Sophie left, Olivia picked at the exquisite breakfast spread, her appetite diminished by anticipation. She wondered if Alexander Reed was similarly preparing for their meeting, or if acquiring a woman at auction was such a commonplace occurrence in his world that it warranted no special consideration. At 11:45, William called to inform her that Mr. Reed would receive her in his study. Following his directions, Olivia took the elevator to the 70th floor, where William waited to escort her through a series of rooms that revealed glimpses of Alexander Reed's life. Unlike the corporate sterility she had expected, these spaces contained evidence of a life well lived before whatever circumstances had led him to isolation. Bookshelves lined with well-worn classics and contemporary works, art that spoke of personal taste rather than investment value, photographs of global landscapes that suggested a man who had once moved freely through the world. The study door stood open. William announced her presence with quiet deference, then disappeared, closing the door behind him. Alexander Reed sat behind a massive desk of polished walnut, his wheelchair barely visible beneath it. In person, he was more striking than she remembered from the dimly lit auction room. Perhaps 40 years old, he possessed the kind of looks that improved with maturity, strong-featured and compelling rather than conventionally handsome. His dark hair was touched with silver at the temples, and his eyes, an unusual shade of grey, regarded her with analytical intensity. "Miss Evans," he acknowledged her with a slight nod. "Please, sit." Olivia took the chair opposite his desk, fighting the urge to fidget under his steady gaze. "I imagine you have questions," he said, after a moment of assessment. "Several," she admitted, "though I'm not certain which ones I'm permitted to ask." The corner of his mouth lifted slightly. "In private, you may ask anything. I value directness. I may choose not to answer, but I won't be offended by curiosity." Olivia considered this. "Then my first question is why? Why participate in that kind of auction? You clearly don't lack for resources or options." Alexander leaned back slightly, in his wheelchair. "Efficiency," he replied. "The arrangement eliminates pretense. Both parties acknowledge the transactional nature of the relationship from the outset." "And what exactly do you expect from this transaction?" "Initially, companionship. I live a necessarily isolated life. My business interests continue, but my personal interactions are limited by choice." His gaze remained steady. "Physical intimacy may become part of our arrangement, but not immediately, and not without mutual consent." Olivia felt a flush rise to her cheeks despite her determination to remain composed. "That's considerate." "It's practical," he corrected. "Coercion creates resentment. Resentment breeds deceit. I have no interest in either." He paused. "Now, a question for you. The auction house presents all its offerings with carefully crafted backstories. Yours was particularly thorough, the mysterious woman with no attachments, no past. Yet your reaction when William informed you of the no-contact policy suggested otherwise." Olivia stiffened. "I have obligations that require attention." "Obligations," he repeated thoughtfully, not the answer of someone truly unattached. She met his gaze directly. "Everyone has obligations, Mr. Reed." "Alexander," he corrected. "And yes, everyone does, but some lie about theirs." The challenge in his voice was unmistakable. Olivia realized he was testing her, probing for dishonesty. The letter on the plane had emphasized his value of honesty above all else. "The organization required me to present myself a certain way," she said carefully. "If that presentation was misleading, the responsibility is theirs." His expression remained unreadable. A diplomatic answer, neither confirmation nor denial. He studied her face for a long moment. "I won't press you now. Trust requires time to develop, and we have 2 months." Alexander moved his wheelchair from behind the desk with practiced ease, revealing the full extent of his physical limitation. His upper body was powerfully built, likely from navigating the wheelchair, but his legs were noticeably thinner beneath perfectly tailored trousers. "Come," he said, "let me show you the rest of the residence. We'll establish the parameters of your role here." As they moved through the penthouse, Alexander explained the rhythm of his days with the precision of someone who had restructured his life around new limitations. Mornings devoted to business conducted remotely. Afternoons for physical therapy and personal projects. Evenings often spent alone with books or music. "Your primary role will be social companionship," he explained as they entered. a vast living area with panoramic views, dinners together, conversation, accompanying me to the occasional business function where a partner's presence is expected. "I'm not sure I'm qualified for business functions," Olivia admitted. Alexander's expression softened slightly. "You underestimate yourself. Your auction profile indicated advanced education, a master's degree in literature. That suggests both intelligence and articulateness." Olivia was surprised they had included that truth among the fabrications. "Yes, though it seems an impractical choice in retrospect." "Knowledge is never impractical," he countered, "merely differently applicable depending on circumstances." They continued the tour with Alexander pointing out spaces she was welcome to use, a library that made her breath catch with longing, a small indoor garden room filled with tropical plants, a state-of-the-art fitness center. The staff includes William, whom you've met, Sophie, who manages the household, Dr. Carter, my physical therapist, and James, my driver. All have been with me since before the accident and are absolutely trustworthy. Your privacy with them will be respected." Olivia nodded, still absorbing the vastness of this world she had temporarily entered. "And the accident. May I ask what happened?" Something flickered in Alexander's eyes, a darkness quickly controlled. "A car crash. 3 years ago. My fiancée was driving. She emerged. Unscathed. I did not." The bitterness in those few terse sentences told volumes. Olivia sensed an ocean of pain beneath the factual recounting. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "Your sympathy is unnecessary," he replied, his tone cooling, "especially since it's uninformed. Caroline's actions before and after the accident would likely transform sympathy to contempt." They had circled back to his study. Alexander moved to the window, gazing out at the city spread below like a conquered territory. "You should know that after the accident, I discovered Caroline had been with me primarily for financial advantage. When it became clear my condition was permanent, she demonstrated remarkable efficiency in transferring her affections to my former business partner. The clinical way he described such betrayal was perhaps more heartbreaking than any emotional display would have been." "That seems to merit more than clinical observation," Olivia noted softly. Alexander turned his wheelchair to face her, his expression revealing surprise at her comment. "Perhaps, but emotional indulgence serves no purpose." "Acknowledging pain isn't indulgence," she countered before she could think better of it. "It's honesty, which you claim to value." For a moment, she feared she had overstepped. Then, unexpectedly, Alexander laughed, a short, rusty sound as if it had been long unused. "Touché, Miss Evans." His grey eyes assessed her with new interest. "You may prove more intriguing than anticipated." Their conversation was interrupted by a discreet knock. William entered with a tablet in hand. "I apologize for the interruption, sir, but the Tokyo call is scheduled in 5 minutes, and the preliminary figures have just arrived." Alexander nodded. "Our tour concludes for now," he told Olivia. "Dinner is at 7. Until then, you're free to rest or explore the floors available to you." As Olivia turned to leave, he added, "One final thing. During business hours and in public, you'll refer to me as Alexander. In private or with the household staff, you may call me Alex. Only those in my inner circle use that name." The distinction seemed meaningful, though Olivia wasn't sure what to make of it. "Understood. Thank you. Alex." The name felt intimate, on her tongue, creating an unexpected connection between them. For the briefest moment, vulnerability showed through Alexander Reed's carefully constructed facade. Then it was gone, replaced by the controlled businessman preparing for his call. Returning to her suite, Olivia stood at the window watching the city below. Somewhere out there, life continued normally for millions of people. Children went to school, parents went to work, families gathered around dinner tables. All the ordinary rituals of life that she had taken for granted. For the next 2 months, her world had contracted to these few luxurious floors and the enigmatic man who ruled them. A man whose physical limitations were far less constraining than the emotional walls he had built. A man who demanded honesty while living in isolation. Olivia touched the window glass, cool and solid beneath her fingertips. Just like Alexander, Reed it offered a clear view of the world while maintaining an impenetrable barrier against it. She wondered if either could truly be breached. The first week in Alexander Reed's penthouse established a rhythm that was simultaneously structured and uncertain. Each day followed a similar pattern. Breakfast delivered to her suite, afternoons spent exploring the permitted floors or reading in the library, dinners with Alexander in the formal dining room, and evenings of conversation in his study or the living area. It was during these evening conversations that Olivia began to glimpse the man behind the fortune. Alexander possessed a formidable intellect, discussing everything from classical literature to quantum physics with equal command. He was well-traveled, at least before his accident, and his observations about global cultures revealed a mind that absorbed details others might miss. Yet for all his willingness to discuss ideas, Alexander remained guarded about personal matters. He deflected questions about his family with practiced ease and changed the subject whenever conversation veered toward emotional terrain. On her 8th day in the penthouse, Olivia stood in the indoor garden room watering a collection of orchids that Sophie had mentioned were Alexander's particular favorites. The tropical warmth and humidity of the room had become her sanctuary, the place where she felt least like a possession and most like herself. "You have a natural touch with them," Alexander's voice came from behind her. It was unusual for him to seek her out during his business hours. "Most people either drown orchids or neglect them." Olivia turned, surprised. "My mother kept orchids. She taught me how to care for them. Just enough water, never too much." "A wise principle beyond horticulture," he observed. "I've interrupted your solitude. My apologies." "No apology needed, it's your home." Alexander wheeled further into the room, inhaling the humid air deeply. "This space was designed by my mother. She believed every home should have a piece of wilderness contained within it, a reminder of what exists beyond human control." It was the first time he had volunteered any personal information about his family. Olivia treaded carefully. "She sounds like a thoughtful woman." Was. His voice was neutral, but Olivia caught the past tense. "But I didn't come to discuss family history. William informed me that you've made no outside calls since your arrival. The initial week-long restriction ended yesterday." Olivia sat down, the watering can. "I wasn't certain the restriction had been lifted." Alexander studied her face. "You could have asked, unless you have no one to call." The direct question demanded a direct answer. Olivia hesitated, then said, "I have people. I'm responsible for people who depend on me." "Family?" She nodded, feeling exposed under his penetrating gaze. "Parents? Siblings?" "My father," she admitted. "He's in a care facility. He had a stroke after some financial difficulties." Alexander absorbed this information with a slight nod. "And these financial difficulties, they're connected to your presence here?" Olivia looked away, focusing on an orchid's delicate bloom. "Yes." "I see." He was quiet for a moment. "Use the secure line in your suite for any calls you need to make. Your privacy will be respected." "Thank you." She turned back to face him. "May I ask you something personal in return?" His expression tightened imperceptibly, but he nodded. "Why do you live like this?" she asked. "So isolated. Your condition doesn't prevent you from going out into the world." Alexander's hands tensed on the wheelchair arms. "Efficiency," he replied, echoing his answer from their first meeting. "My work doesn't require physical presence, merely mental acuity and reliable communication technology." "That explains your professional isolation, not your personal choice." "Perhaps I prefer solitude to the alternatives." "No one prefers complete solitude," Olivia countered gently. "We might choose it as protection, but not as preference." Something flashed in Alexander's eyes, anger perhaps, or recognition. "You speak with remarkable confidence about my preferences, Olivia, especially for someone who has constructed careful fictions about her own life." The accusation hung between them. Olivia felt a flush rise to her cheeks, but held his gaze. I didn't choose to be here under false pretenses. The organization required certain omissions, and yet you accepted those terms. His voice remained even, but with an edge of challenge. We all make compromises when necessary, don't we? Before she could respond, his phone chimed. Alexander checked it and sighed. Tokyo again. We'll continue this conversation another time. As he turned to leave, Olivia called after him. Alex? He paused, looking back at her. Thank you for the phone privilege. It means more than you know. Something in his expression softened momentarily. Then, with a brief nod, he was gone, leaving Olivia surrounded by the lush greenery that thrived, despite being cut off from the outside world. That evening, after a quiet dinner during which Alexander seemed preoccupied, Olivia returned to her suite and made the call she had been desperate to make since her arrival. Her friend Sarah answered on the second ring. Olivia, thank God, I've been so worried. I'm fine, Olivia assured her, though the words felt hollow. How are the girls? And Dad? The girls miss you terribly, but they're okay. We've been visiting. Your dad daily. The new facility is amazing, Liv. How on earth did you afford it? Olivia closed her eyes, picturing her daughters, their matching honey-blonde braids and gap-toothed smiles. It's a long story. I'll explain everything when I get back. Can I talk to them? For the next 15 minutes, Olivia's carefully constructed facade crumbled as she spoke to Emma and Lily. They chatted excitedly about school, their temporary bedroom at Aunt Sarah's house, and their daily visits to Grandpa. When are you coming home, Mummy? Emma asked, her voice small despite her attempt at bravery. Soon, sweetheart. Mommy's special job will be finished before you know it, and then we'll all be together again. Promise? Lily chimed in. I promise, and I'll call again tomorrow. Okay? Be good for Aunt Sarah. After saying goodbye, Olivia sat on the edge of her bed, tears streaming down her face. The weight of her deception, to her children, to Alexander, to herself, felt suddenly unbearable. She didn't hear the soft knock at first. When it came again, more insistent, she hastily wiped her eyes and opened the door to find Sophie holding a silver tray with a teapot and 2 cups. Mr. Reed thought, You might appreciate some chamomile tea, Sophie said, her kind eyes taking in Olivia's tear-stained face without comment. He mentioned it was your preference in the evenings. Olivia was momentarily speechless. She had mentioned her fondness for chamomile only once in passing, during one of their early dinners. That's very thoughtful. Please thank him for me. Sophie set the tray on the small table near the window. He also asked me to inform you that he'll be in the library, if you'd care to join him once you've finished your call. After Sophie left, Olivia took a few minutes to compose herself, sipping the perfectly prepared tea and considering what Alexander's gesture might mean. The man who projected such emotional detachment had nevertheless noticed her preference and responded to her evident distress with unexpected sensitivity. Half an hour later, Olivia found Alexander in the library, a vast room lined with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves and furnished with comfortable leather chairs designed for hours of reading. He sat near the fireplace where a small fire burned despite the mild spring evening. You didn't need to send tea, she said by way of greeting. But thank you. Alexander closed the book in his lap. It seemed the least I could do after pointing out my deceptions, she finished for him. After recognizing your distress, he corrected gently. Was your call reassuring? Olivia hesitated, then decided on honesty. Yes and no. Everyone is safe and well, but I miss them terribly. Them, Alexander repeated, watching her carefully. Your father and... The moment stretched between them, fraught with tension. Olivia knew she stood at a crossroads. The truth could destroy whatever tenuous connection they had formed, possibly even violate her contract, but continued deception felt increasingly impossible. My daughters, she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. Twin girls. 7 years old. If Alexander was surprised, he concealed it well. I see. He was quiet for a long moment. The auction house explicitly markets its offerings as unattached individuals. They presented me as they needed to, Olivia interrupted, and I allowed it because I was desperate. My father was deceived by investors who took everything we had. When he couldn't pay, threats were made, not just against him, but against my daughters. The words spilled out now, unstoppable. I tried everything legal first, but with my father's medical bills and the debt growing daily, when the auction opportunity appeared, it seemed like the only way to protect them. Alexander's expression was unreadable. And the scar you conceal with makeup. Olivia felt heat rise to her face. Caesarean section. The girls were breech. So everything in your auction profile was a fabrication. Not everything, she countered. My education, my interests, my personality, those were true. But yes, the most fundamental aspects of my identity were omitted. Alexander wheeled his chair closer to where she stood. Why tell me this now? You could have maintained the fiction for the duration of our contract. Because living a complete lie for 2 months would destroy something in me that I need intact when I return to my daughters, Olivia replied with quiet dignity. And because you said you valued honesty above all else. I did say that, he acknowledged. His grey eyes studied her with renewed interest. Though I admit I didn't anticipate being tested on it quite so dramatically. Unexpected tears threatened again. I'll understand if you want to terminate our arrangement. I can leave tomorrow. Alexander shook his head slowly. That seems unnecessary. Your having children doesn't change the terms of our agreement. Olivia blinked in surprise. It doesn't bother you that I lied. You were coerced into a particular presentation by circumstances beyond your control. That's not the same as deliberate deception for personal gain. His voice took on a harder edge, and Olivia suspected he was thinking of his former fiancée. Besides, your maternal status explains certain inconsistencies I'd observed. Inconsistencies? A ghost of a smile touched his lips. The way you automatically straightened the books on the lower shelves to prevent them from falling. The instinct to cut food into bite-sized pieces. The reflexive check for hazards when entering a new room. Olivia hadn't realized she'd been so transparent. A mother's habits die hard, I suppose. Indeed, Alexander seemed to be weighing a decision. Finally, he said, I'd like to modify our arrangement slightly. Her heart sank. Here it came, the renegotiation based on her deception. I think you should call your daughters daily, he continued, surprising her. And if you'd like to have video calls with them, that can be arranged as well, private ones, of course. Olivia stared at him, genuinely shocked. I don't know what to say. Thank you would suffice, he suggested, the corner of his mouth lifting slightly. Thank you, she echoed, emotion making her voice unsteady. But why? Most men in your position would be angry? Betrayed? Alexander's expression grew contemplative. Perhaps I understand desperate choices better than most. My accident changed how I navigate the world, but your responsibilities to your children, that's a more profound alteration of one's path. They sat in silence for a moment, the crackling fire the only sound in the vast library. Olivia sensed that Alexander had revealed more of himself in that moment than he had since her arrival. May I ask about them? He inquired finally. Your daughters. For the next hour, Olivia found herself talking about Emma and Lily, their personalities, their interests, their little triumphs and struggles. Alexander listened with genuine attention, occasionally asking insightful questions that suggested he was truly engaged. They sound remarkable, he said, when she finally fell silent, realizing she had been talking without pause. You've done well with them, especially under difficult circumstances. They make it easy to do my best, Olivia replied, even when my best feels inadequate. Alexander nodded, a shadow crossing his face. I understand that feeling all too well. He checked his watch. It's getting late. We should both rest. As Olivia rose to leave, Alexander called after her. Olivia, thank you for your honesty tonight. It can't have been easy. Easier than continuing the lie, she admitted, Good night, Alex. Good night. The next morning brought a subtle but definite shift in their dynamic. When Olivia entered the dining room for breakfast, she found Alexander already there, a departure from their usual routine. "I took the liberty of having breakfast prepared for both of us this morning," he explained. "I thought perhaps you might appreciate company." Over fresh fruit and pastries, their conversation flowed with newfound ease. Alexander seemed more relaxed, less guarded. When William arrived with business matters requiring attention, Alexander actually looked disappointed at the interruption. "We'll continue later," he promised, before attending to William's concerns. The pattern continued over subsequent days. Alexander began seeking out Olivia's company during times previously devoted to solitary work. They took lunch together in the garden room. He invited her to sit with him during his physical therapy sessions, where Dr. Carter put him through grueling exercises designed to maintain muscle tone in his legs. "You don't have to watch this," Alexander said during a particularly demanding session that left him sweating and grimacing in pain. "Does it bother you that I'm here?" Olivia asked. "No," he admitted, surprising himself. "Actually, it's helpful." Dr. Carter exchanged a meaningful glance with Olivia. Later, when Alexander was showering, the doctor pulled her aside. "Whatever you're doing, keep doing it," he said quietly. "I've worked with Alex for 3 years, and this is the most dedication he's shown to his therapy in months." 2 weeks after her confession about the twins, Olivia was reading in the library when Alexander entered, looking uncharacteristically hesitant. "I have a proposal," he announced without preamble. "There's a charity gala tomorrow night at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Reed Industries is a major sponsor, and my absence has been noted at the last 3 events. I wonder if you might accompany me." Olivia looked up in surprise. "You want to attend a public event?" "Want might be overstating it," he admitted wryly. "But yes, I think it's time. That is, if you're willing." "Of course," she replied, "but I'm not sure I have anything appropriate to wear." Alexander smiled. "I took the liberty of having Sophie arrange several options. They should be in your suite by now." That evening, Olivia tried on 5 designer gowns, each more exquisite than the last. She finally selected a midnight blue creation that Sophie assured her was perfect for the occasion. The seamstress who arrived for final adjustments worked with swift efficiency, ensuring the gown fit as if it had been made for her. The night of the gala, Olivia found herself both excited and nervous. It would be their first appearance together, in public, her first glimpse of Alexander Reed's world beyond the penthouse walls. As she put the finishing touches on her makeup, she wondered how he would introduce her to his associates. As what, exactly? The thought sent an unexpected pang through her heart. When she emerged from her suite, Alexander was waiting in the foyer. He wore a perfectly tailored tuxedo that emphasized his broad shoulders and strong physique. In his wheelchair, with his commanding presence, he didn't appear diminished in any way, merely seated. His eyes widened slightly when he saw her. "You look," he paused, searching for the right word, "transcendent." The unexpected compliment brought warmth to Olivia's cheeks. "Thank you. You clean up rather well yourself." The ride to the museum was filled with Alexander briefing her on who they might encounter. "The business world can be sharky," he warned. "Some will be openly curious about you. Others will mask their curiosity with pleasantness while looking for weaknesses or inconsistencies." "Should we have a cover story?" Olivia asked. "About how we met." Alexander considered this. "Let's stay close to truth. We'll say we met through mutual connections and have been seeing each other privately for several weeks." "And what am I to you?" she asked, voicing the question that had been troubling her. His gray eyes met hers. "My companion for the evening. Beyond that, let them wonder." The Metropolitan Museum was transformed for the event, its grand spaces glowing with tasteful lighting that highlighted both the architectural features and the priceless art. As they entered, Olivia became acutely aware of the attention they drew. Alexander Reed's appearance after months of reclusiveness would have been noteworthy enough. His arrival with an unknown woman on his arm created a definite stir. William had gone ahead to ensure accessibility arrangements were in place. He met them at the entrance, efficiently guiding them through security and into the main event space. Alexander navigated the crowd with surprising ease, his wheelchair commanding respect rather than pity. Alexander Reed, called a silver-haired man approaching them with calculated heartiness. The prodigal financier returns. Douglas, Alexander acknowledged coolly. Olivia, may I present Douglas Harrington, CEO of Harrington Global. Douglas, this is Olivia Evans. Douglas is assessing. Gaze swept over Olivia. Charmed, my dear. I don't believe we've met before. How did you manage to lure our reclusive friend back into society? Before Olivia could respond, Alexander interjected smoothly. Olivia has a remarkable ability to distinguish between social obligations worth honoring and those that are merely time-consuming. Tonight fell into the former category. The subtle rebuke wasn't lost on Douglas, whose smile tightened slightly. Indeed. Well, I should continue my rounds. Lovely to meet you, Miss Evans. As the evening progressed, Olivia met dozens of Alexander's business associates, each interaction following a similar pattern. Initial curiosity about her, professional deference to Alexander, and beneath it all, an undercurrent of speculation about their relationship. They were sampling hors d'oeuvres when a striking blonde woman appeared before them, her smile brittle, with practiced charm. Alex, she said, leaning down to kiss his cheek with presumptive familiarity. What a delightful surprise. Alexander tensed visibly, though his expression revealed nothing. Caroline, I wasn't aware you were on the guest list. Caroline's smile didn't reach her eyes. Thomas insisted we support the cause. You remember Thomas, of course. How could I forget my former CFO? Alexander's voice was glacial. Caroline turned her attention to Olivia, assessing her with a predator's calculation. And who is your lovely friend? Olivia Evans, Alexander replied. Olivia, this is Caroline Westfield. The name registered immediately. His former fiancée, the woman who had been driving when the accident occurred, who had abandoned him when his condition proved permanent. A pleasure, Olivia said with cool politeness. Caroline's perfectly manicured hand gestured vaguely toward Olivia. How did you two meet? Alex has become so selective about his social circle since the accident. The emphasis she placed on selective carried clear insinuation. Olivia felt a surge of protectiveness toward Alexander. Sometimes life brings the right people together at exactly the right moment, she replied with deliberate ambiguity, placing her hand lightly on Alexander's shoulder. Alexander reached up to cover her hand with his own, the gesture intimate and natural. If you'll excuse us, Caroline, I promised Olivia a tour of the new exhibition before dinner. As they moved away, Olivia felt Alexander's tension. Are you all right? She asked quietly. Better than expected, he replied. Thank you for your intervention. She seems unpleasant. That's diplomatic of you. A genuine smile touched his lips. She's actually worse than she appears. The remainder of the evening passed more pleasantly. Alexander introduced Olivia to several people he genuinely respected, and she found herself enjoying their conversations about art, philanthropy, and global initiatives. Throughout it all, Alexander remained close, their connection apparent to all observers. It was nearly midnight when they finally departed. In the privacy of the limousine, Alexander exhaled deeply, some of his public facade falling away. You were magnificent tonight, he said quietly. I hadn't realized how challenging it would be to face them all again. Caroline, you mean? Caroline. Thomas. The entire circus of people who either pitied me or wrote me off after the accident. He turned to look at Olivia, his expression vulnerable in a way she hadn't seen before. Having you there made it bearable. The naked honesty in his voice touched something deep within her. Without thinking, Olivia reached for his hand. I'm glad I could help. They rode in comfortable silence for a while, hands still joined, before Alexander spoke again. Would you consider accompanying me to another event next week? The opening of a new wing at the children's hospital we sponsor. With children present? Olivia asked, surprised. Yes, I thought. Perhaps you might miss being around children, and they might benefit from someone who understands them as you do. The thoughtfulness of his suggestion brought unexpected tears to her eyes. I'd like that very much. As they ascended in the private elevator to the penthouse, Olivia realized something had fundamentally shifted between them. What had begun as a transaction was evolving into something neither of them had anticipated, something dangerously close to genuine connection. The visit to the children's hospital marked another turning point in Olivia and Alexander's evolving relationship. As they toured the new pediatric wing that Reed Industries had funded, Olivia watched Alexander transform from the guarded businessman she knew into someone warmer and more accessible. Children approached his wheelchair without the awkwardness adults often displayed, asking direct questions about how it worked and if they could have a ride. Alexander answered them with patience and humor that surprised even William, who had worked for him for over a decade. "I've never seen him like this," William confided to Olivia as they watched Alexander demonstrate the wheelchair's turning radius for an enthralled group of young patients. Before the accident, he was always good with corporate presentations, but children, this is new. Olivia smiled, recognizing the joy in Alexander's eyes. Sometimes it takes a certain kind of honesty to break through our defenses. Children excel at that. When a 7-year-old girl with leukemia shyly presented Alexander with a drawing she'd made of him flying in a super wheelchair, his expression of genuine delight revealed a man Olivia had only glimpsed in their most unguarded moments. "Mr. Reed," called the hospital director as they prepared to leave, "would you consider making these visits regular? The children clearly respond to you, and frankly, many of our donors prefer to support from a distance." Alexander hesitated, glancing at Olivia. She gave him an encouraging nod. "I think that could be arranged," he replied, "perhaps monthly to start." Their car ride back to the penthouse was filled with animated conversation, Alexander more energized than Olivia had ever seen him. "Did you see that boy with the prosthetic leg?" His questions about hydraulic systems were remarkably insightful for a 10-year-old. Alexander shook his head in amazement, and the little girl with the drawing, "Sophia," Olivia supplied with a smile. "Yes, Sophia." Her understanding of aerodynamics was charmingly optimistic. "You were wonderful with all of them," Olivia said softly. "They responded to your authenticity." Alexander's expression grew more serious. "I've avoided children since the accident. I thought they would be uncomfortable with my condition, or worse, that I would see in them all the possibilities I'd lost. And instead I found them refreshingly direct. No pity, just curiosity." He paused. "Being there with you made it easier. You have a natural way with them." "Years of practice," she reminded him with a gentle smile. "Yes, of course." His gaze grew distant. "I would have had that practice too if things had gone differently." It was the first time he had alluded to what might have been a different future. Olivia waited, sensing he needed space to continue if he chose. "Caroline and I had discussed children," he said finally. Or rather, I had raised the subject and she had deflected it. In retrospect, her reluctance was telling. "Not everyone is meant for parenthood," Olivia offered carefully. "True, but some people should be honest about that before committing to a life together." The bitterness in his voice was palpable. "After the accident, when I suggested we could still have a family through adoption or surrogacy, her mask finally slipped. She said she hadn't signed up for raising children with a cripple." Olivia inhaled sharply at the cruelty. "I'm so sorry, Alex." "Don't be." It was clarifying, if nothing else. His hands tightened on the wheelchair arms. "The accident revealed the truth about many relationships in my life, not just Caroline, but supposed friends and business associates who suddenly found me less valuable in this condition, and that's why you retreated." "Partly." He met her gaze directly. "I also needed to remake myself in this new reality. Learn who I was without the constant, external validation of people who only valued what I could do for them." "Have you found an answer?" she asked softly. A hint of a smile touched his lips. I'm still looking, but these past weeks have been illuminating. The unspoken implication that her presence had contributed to this illumination hung between them, charged with possibility. As April turned to May, the boundaries of their arrangement continued to blur. Alexander included Olivia in business discussions, valuing her perspective on projects related to education and community development. She, in turn, found herself unconsciously adjusting her daily routine to complement his, their lives intertwining in ways neither had anticipated. Their evenings often extended late into the night, conversations ranging from philosophy to personal hopes, the formality of their initial interactions replaced by genuine connection. Sometimes they read in companionable silence, occasionally sharing passages that resonated. Other times Alexander taught her chess, his strategic mind appreciating her intuitive approach to the game. One evening, as spring rain lashed against the penthouse windows, Alexander emerged from his study looking troubled. "Is everything all right?" Olivia asked, setting aside the novel she'd been reading. "I've just received some concerning information." He wheeled closer to where she sat. "William has been monitoring the situation with your father's debt, as I requested." Olivia straightened, anxiety immediately rising. "Has something happened?" "The debt collector who threatened your family, a man named Victor Malden, appears unsatisfied with the settlement. He's been making inquiries about your father's new care facility." Fear clutched at Olivia's heart. But how is that possible? The auction house guaranteed complete payment. That was the whole point of... She gestured vaguely between them, suddenly uncomfortable naming their arrangement. "The contractual debt was indeed paid," Alexander clarified. "But it appears Malden operates in somewhat extra-legal territory. He's claiming additional interest. That wasn't documented in the original agreement." "Extortion," Olivia whispered, the implications sinking in. "What can I do? If he finds my father..." "I've already taken precautions," Alexander interrupted, his voice calm but determined. "Security at the care facility has been enhanced, and I've assigned personal protection for both your father and your daughters." Olivia stared at him, processing his words. "You protected my family without telling me." "I didn't want to worry you unnecessarily until we had confirmation of the threat." Alexander met her gaze steadily. "Your family's safety is non-negotiable, Olivia." The simple declaration, delivered with absolute conviction, cracked something in Olivia's carefully maintained composure. Tears welled in her eyes. "Hey," Alexander said softly, moving his wheelchair closer and taking her hands in his. "I promise you they're safe. I have resources Malden can't begin to match." "It's not that," she managed, trying to stem the tears. "It's just, no one has helped me carry this burden before. I've been handling everything alone for so long." Something shifted in Alexander's expression, a softening, a recognition. Without a word, he tugged gently on her hands, drawing her from the chair onto his lap. Olivia went willingly, surprising herself as she settled against his chest. His arms encircled her, strong and secure, offering comfort without demand. They remained that way for long minutes, the sound of rain providing a soothing backdrop to this unexpected intimacy. Olivia felt the steady beat of his heart beneath her cheek, the solidity of his presence a balm to years of solitary struggle. "You're not alone anymore," Alexander said finally, his voice a low rumble she felt as much as heard. "Whatever happens, we'll face it together." Olivia pulled back slightly to look into his face, struck by the sincerity in his grey eyes, the air between them charged with unspoken possibility. Slowly, giving him time to withdraw if he wished, she leaned forward and pressed her lips to his. The kiss began tentatively, an exploration of new territory. But when Alexander responded, one hand moving to cradle the back of her head, tentativeness gave way to certainty. What started as comfort transformed into something deeper. Desire mingled with emerging emotion neither had expected to feel. When they finally broke apart, both slightly breathless, Alexander rested his forehead against hers. "This wasn't part of our arrangement," he murmured, a question in his voice. "No," Olivia agreed, "it's something else entirely." That night marked the beginning of a profound shift in their relationship. Alexander invited Olivia to sleep in his suite, though they did nothing more than hold each other, both recognizing the significance of the step they were taking. As she lay beside him in the darkness, his arm protectively around her waist, Olivia marveled at how completely her expectations had been overturned. She had entered his world as a transaction, a desperate solution to an impossible problem. Yet here she was, her head on, his shoulder, feeling something dangerously close to belonging. The next morning brought practical concerns back into focus. Over breakfast, Alexander outlined his strategy for dealing with Victor Malden. "My security team has compiled a comprehensive file on his operations," he explained, his businessman persona firmly in place despite the intimate night they had shared. "He's overextended himself in several questionable ventures. We have enough leverage to neutralize his interest in your family permanently." "What kind of leverage?" Olivia asked cautiously. "The legal kind," Alexander assured her with a slight smile. "I've scheduled meetings with both the district attorney and Malden's legitimate business partners. Once they understand how his actions might affect their own interests, I expect his enthusiasm for pursuing your family will evaporate. And if it doesn't?" Alexander's expression hardened. "Then we move to more direct measures. I've purchased your father's debt outright, including the fictional interest Malden claims. If necessary, I'll make it clear that any threat to your family is now a direct challenge to me." The casual display of power should have been intimidating, but Olivia found it reassuring. For the first time in years, the constant weight of vulnerability had been lifted from her shoulders. "Thank you," she said simply. "I don't know how I'll ever repay this." Alexander reached across the table to take her hand. "This isn't about repayment, Olivia. This is about—" He paused, searching for words. "This is about caring for what matters to you, because you matter to me." The admission lingered between them, profound in its simplicity. Later that day, William arrived with updates on the Malden situation. "Mr. Reed's message has been delivered, Ms. Evans. I'm pleased to report that Mr. Malden has suddenly discovered a pressing business opportunity overseas. He'll be relocating indefinitely." Relief washed over Olivia. "So it's over. My family is safe." "Entirely safe," William confirmed with quiet satisfaction. "Mr. Reed was quite persuasive." When William departed, Olivia found Alexander in his study, focused intently on his computer screen. "William told me what you did." "She," said, moving to stand beside his wheelchair. "Malden is gone." Alexander looked up, his expression relaxing as he saw her. "Good. That chapter is closed." "How can I possibly thank you?" "You don't need to thank me," he replied, taking her hand and drawing her closer. "But there is something we should discuss." Olivia tensed slightly, uncertain of his tone. "What is it?" "Our contract." Alexander's eyes held hers steadily. "We're halfway through the agreed term." The reminder sent an unexpected pang through Olivia's heart. She had almost forgotten the temporary nature of their arrangement, lost in the growing connection between them. "Yes," she acknowledged quietly. 1 month down, 1 to go." Alexander's thumb traced patterns on her palm, his expression thoughtful. "I'm wondering if we should reconsider the terms." "Reconsider how?" Olivia asked, her pulse quickening. "The original arrangement was predicated on circumstances that no longer apply. Your family is secure. Malden is no longer a threat, and we've moved beyond the parameters established at the beginning." "What are you suggesting?" Olivia hardly dared to hope what his words might imply. Alexander drew a deep breath. "I'm suggesting we terminate the contract and replace it with something more authentic." "Authentic," Olivia repeated, needing him to be explicit. "I want you to stay, Olivia, not because of a contract or obligation, but because you choose to. Because what's developing between us is worth exploring outside the constraints of our original agreement." Joy bloomed in her chest, but uncertainty followed close behind. "And my daughters? My father?" "They would be welcome here, of course," Alexander replied without hesitation. This place has too many empty rooms and too little life in it. Your family would change that. The offer was everything Olivia could have wished for, yet she hesitated. Alex, are you certain? Children change. Everything. They're loud and messy and unpredictable. Your ordered world would never be the same. A smile spread across his face, one of the rare, genuine smiles that transformed his features. My ordered world, as you call it, was a mausoleum before you arrived. The prospect of it being disrupted by children sounds remarkably appealing. Before Olivia could respond, a sharp knock at the study door interrupted them. William entered, his normally composed expression troubled. I apologize for the intrusion, sir, but we have a situation. He glanced at Olivia. It concerns Miss Evans. Alexander's posture immediately tensed. What's happened? William handed him a tablet. This was just published on several gossip sites. Given Miss Evans's situation, I thought you should see it immediately. Alexander scanned the screen, his expression darkening. Without a word, he passed the tablet to Olivia. The headline blared in sensationalist font. Reed's Mystery Woman, Auction Purchase or Real Romance. Below was a grainy photo of them at the hospital charity event, followed by several paragraphs of speculation about their relationship. The most damaging line came near the end. Sources close to the reclusive billionaire suggest that Evans may have been acquired through an exclusive service catering to the ultra-wealthy, raising questions about the nature of their arrangement. Olivia felt the blood drain from her face. How did they— Caroline, Alexander said grimly. This has her fingerprints all over it. She must have recognized you from the auction documentation or made connections through her social circle. My daughters, Olivia whispered, panic rising. If this gets out, if someone connects me to them— It won't, Alexander assured her, his voice steel. William, initiate Privacy Protocol Delta. I want every copy of this scrubbed, the sources discredited, and a counter-narrative in place by morning. Already in progress, sir. Miss Sophie has also taken the liberty of increasing security around Miss Evans's family. Alexander turned back to Olivia, taking both her hands in his. We'll contain this, I promise you. But if we can't, if someone discovers who I really am, where I come from, the auction, my desperation, it would all become public. Your reputation is irrelevant compared to your family's safety and privacy, Alexander finished firmly. Let me be absolutely clear, Olivia. I don't care what the world thinks of me or my choices. I care about protecting you and those you love. The conviction in his voice steadied her racing heart. This was a man accustomed to controlling his environment, to bending circumstances to his will. If anyone could shield her family from this storm, it was Alexander Reed. What do we do now? She asked, her practical nature reasserting itself. Now, Alexander replied, his eyes determined. We fight back, and then we bring your family home where they belong. The declaration, simple and definitive, left no room for doubt. In the midst of this new crisis, Alexander had made his position clear. Olivia and her family were his priority, their well-being non-negotiable. As William departed to implement Alexander's directives, Olivia found herself facing a profound truth. In less than 2 months, this man and his world had become more than a temporary sanctuary. They had become home. The contract that had brought them together now seemed like the flimsiest of pretexts for what had grown between them. A connection neither had sought, but both now cherished. The night ahead would bring challenges and uncertainties. The gossip sites would speculate, threats might emerge from unexpected quarters, and the careful separation Olivia had maintained between her two lives would begin to blur. Yet standing in Alexander's study, his hands warm around hers, his eyes unwavering in their commitment, Olivia felt something she had almost forgotten: hope. Not merely hope for survival or temporary security, but hope for a future bright with possibility, a future where she wasn't fighting alone, where her children would have not just shelter, but a home, where the man before her might become more than a temporary haven. Together, she said, echoing his earlier promise. Whatever comes, we face it together. Alexander's smile was answer enough. The Reed Tower buzzed with activity. as rooms on the 68th floor were transformed with lavender and seafoam. Paint, custom furniture, and reading nooks, all designed according to Emma and Lily's drawings. Richard's suite was equipped with specialized medical features, everything prepared for their arrival tomorrow. "Are you certain about this?" Alexander asked, finding Olivia arranging stuffed animals in what would be the girls' playroom. "There's still time to reconsider the living arrangements. I'm exactly where I want to be," she assured him, perching on his wheelchair's arm to kiss him softly. The past 3 weeks had been transformative. Alexander's team had replaced the gossip article with stories about the reclusive billionaire's romance with a children's literature specialist. Victor Malden had disappeared overseas, the threat neutralized through Alexander's intervention. Daily video calls had introduced Alexander to Emma and Lily, who were fascinated by his cool wheelchair and castle in the sky. Even Olivia's cautious father had gradually warmed to Alexander's straightforward manner. William confirmed the final arrangements, the private jet would arrive at 4 p.m. tomorrow with medical staff, accompanying Richard throughout the journey. Security measures were in place, the press barred from Reed Tower, and welcome baskets prepared for the children. "I believe my staff has become more invested in your family's arrival than in quarterly projections," Alexander observed wryly. "They care about you," Olivia replied, "and they've seen how different you are now." It was true. The isolated, bitter man she'd met was replaced by someone engaged and present. Dr. Carter reported significant improvements in physical therapy. William noted Alexander's increased participation in video conferences, and Sophie commented on his improved appetite and occasional smiles. The evening before her family's arrival, Alexander surprised Olivia with dinner on a previously unseen rooftop terrace, transformed into a fairy tale garden with twinkling lights and fragrant flowers. After dessert, Alexander wheeled to the edge where a fountain burbled peacefully. "2 months ago, everything between us was defined by a contract," he began, taking her hands. "That contract expires tomorrow. Officially, you would be free to leave with your family." "Is that what you want?" Olivia asked, her throat tight. "No," he said simply. "What I want is to tear up that contract and replace it with a promise, a commitment with no expiration date." From his jacket, he produced a velvet box containing an emerald ring surrounded by diamonds. "Olivia Mitchell, will you marry me? Will you and your daughters become my family, not because of an arrangement, but because we choose each other, every day?" "Yes," she whispered through joyful tears. "Yes," Alexander slipped the ring onto her finger. "I promise to love your daughters as my own, support your father's care, and cherish you for the extraordinary woman you are." "I never imagined," Olivia said, "when I walked onto that auction stage, that I would find not just security, but love." The next day, Olivia woke early, too excited to sleep. When William announced the car's approach, her hand found Alexander's as the elevator began its ascent. The doors opened to reveal Emma and Lily in matching blue dresses, honey blonde hair in neat braids, standing wide-eyed at the luxurious surroundings. Behind them, Richard sat in a transport wheelchair, frailer than Olivia remembered, but with alert eyes seeking his daughter. "Mommy!" the twins cried, running toward her. After their emotional reunion, Emma turned to Alexander. "Are you Mr. Alex?" she asked directly. "I am," he replied, wheeling forward. "It's very nice to finally meet you in person." Lily studied him. "Your chair is even cooler in real life," she decided, approaching with growing confidence. As Alexander demonstrated the wheelchair's features to the delighted twins, Olivia embraced her father. "So that's him," Richard observed, "the man who bought your freedom and then stole your heart." "He didn't steal it," she corrected, showing her engagement ring. "I gave it freely, just as he gave me his." "Are you happy, Olivia? Truly happy? Not just secure?" "Happier than I ever imagined possible," she answered without hesitation. The transition wasn't without challenges. The twins woke disoriented their first night, but Alexander and Olivia settled them together, his unexpected storytelling talent bringing giggles despite midnight fears. Richard initially kept watchful distance, but Alexander's respectful treatment of Olivia Genuine interest in Richard's well-being and affection for the twins gradually won him over. Within a week, a new normal emerged. Mornings found the twins helping Sophie prepare breakfast, their chatter filling the once-silent penthouse. Alexander adjusted his work schedule for family afternoons, discovering talents for homework help and board games. Evenings brought them together in the newly renovated family room, building connections that strengthened daily. Even the staff transformed, William revealing magic tricks that delighted the twins, Sophie teaching them their grandmother's cookie recipe, Dr. Carter incorporating play into Alexander's therapy so the children could participate. 3 weeks later, Alexander proposed a family vacation to his long, unused beach house on the Massachusetts coast. "I've been holding on to the past too long," he explained when they were alone. "Our family deserves sunshine, sand between their toes, and the sound of waves at night." "Our family," Olivia repeated, savoring the words. The night before their departure, they discussed family names on the rooftop terrace. "Reed Mitchell," Alexander suggested. "A hyphenate that honors both our histories. Emma and Lily Reed Mitchell has a nice ring to it, Olivia." "Agreed. Do you ever regret it?" he asked more seriously. "The auction, the contract, any of it?" "How could I? Look what grew from that beginning. Security for my family, a future for my children, love I never expected to find." "When you put it that way," Alexander smiled, "it almost makes the auction house seem like a matchmaking service." They laughed together under the stars. "Who would have thought that Lot 23 would find her happy ending with the man in the wheelchair?" Olivia mused. "Not an ending," Alexander corrected, lifting her chin. "A beginning. Our beginning." As they kissed high above the sleeping city, Olivia reflected on their journey. The contract that once defined their relationship lay forgotten, replaced by promises made not from necessity, but from love. Below, 2 little girls dreamed of beach adventures. With their new family, a grandfather rested easier knowing his daughter and granddaughters were cherished. And above, a woman who had once been bought found the priceless gift of a love freely given, while the man who had purchased her companionship discovered his greatest wealth lay not in his fortune, but in the family that had brought his silent tower to vibrant life. Fim da história. Queridos ouvintes, esperamos que a história de Olivia e Alexander tenha tocado seus corações. Para continuar nessa jornada emocional, preparamos uma playlist especial com histórias igualmente cativantes. Encontre-a aqui, clicando à sua esquerda. Se você gostou desta história, não se esqueça de se inscrever em nosso canal e dar um like no vídeo. Todos os dias trazemos histórias únicas que exploram a complexidade da vida e dos relacionamentos. Não perca nossos próximos conteúdos. Estamos ansiosos para ler seus comentários.